impact sector is not alone in struggling in AI governance. But I do think that actually the world can learn from the impact sector's commitment to stakeholder engagement. So, what makes AI governance challenging is, I think, two things. So, one, there's just a lot of gaps in understanding. This is a brand new technology for many people. They may be anchoring their idea of what this technology is with one or two examples that they have. Maybe they've used ChatGPT, but they don't know about all these other applications or systems that use AI. And there's a lot of kind of myths about what AI can do, what it means, what the risks are. And so that can really cloud conversations about these topics. Additionally, as I mentioned previously, AI can obfuscate what's actually happening, right? Like, we can use technology to make things seem like they're these really systematic processes, when in fact it might be, standing on toothpicks at the end of the day. It might be a much more fragile system than we think. So I think that that also can make these conversations challenging because connected to those myths, there can be a sense that these systems are much more robust and capable than they are. Another thing that I think is challenging in this space is that the AI tools that we have today are frequently not built for impact, right? They're often technologies that exist that after the fact, people are working to adjust and, try to squeeze into the impact use cases that we care about. And that's not to say there's not a lot of really important work to be done there. Absolutely. There's a ton of really excellent work being done to adapt these tools. I know that the Rockefeller Foundation, in partnership with an organization called GUI AI, has been doing a lot of work on how to adapt some of these tools in that way. But I think that there is a real need for us to recognize that the AI that has been built today is largely not built for our goals. And so when we're talking about governance, that often means that we're doing it after the fact, right? We're trying to bolt on these things later instead of starting from the ground up. And so when we think about the impact investing space and the commitment to stakeholder engagement, I think that there are two ways to come at this. One is focusing on the kind of upskilling and education to get people comfortable with what AI is, what it can be. Our team at the Aspen Institute put together a series of resources originally targeted at journalists, but honestly, they've been used everywhere from classrooms to Congress on how people can actually understand some of the fundamentals of AI. So one approach is engaging people in a conversation where we try to bring them the skills and the knowledge to have make meaningful, informed decisions. Another approach, which I don't think is mutually exclusive from the first, is to focus less on the tech. I think that a lot of our conversations around technology governance are really centered on the tools, when what I wish we were doing was having more of a conversation about the goals. What do we want to achieve? What are the problems that we're facing? What are the strategies that seem most promising? And I think that using that lens, we can actually bring more people into an AI governance conversation, even if they, are not a tech person, even if they aren't familiar with these tools and capabilities. It is kind of incumbent on us as technologists and translators to do the work of helping, transmit that information and those values into tech. But I think that in addition to upskilling people on tech, we should probably focus more on like, well, what do people want? And then how do we make sure that tech is doing that thing, right? I think that oftentimes our conversations are really focused on what is the thing we don't want tech to do and how do we stop them from doing that? And we got to do that too, for sure. But I think that not enough is spent on what is the actual challenge that we're trying to address, what are the goals we're trying to achieve, and how do we then include more people in that conversation and then do this translational work to figure out what that means for tech. That
Hmm.
being said, I do just want to call out two examples of places where people are actually using AI for stakeholder engagement and deliberation. So one, there's an organization, a nonprofit called the Collective Intelligence Project, that uses AI tools to facilitate deliberative dialogue between people about values, about what they want from technology. And there's another example of this. The AI Objectives Institute is an organization that built a system called Talk to the City, which has also been used for deliberative processes, including, policy conversations. And I think that there are absolutely opportunities for us to leverage these tools to extend the work that we already do. But I think that it's okay if not everyone is a tech expert. They can still be really actively involved in a tech governance conversation.
Hmm.